And we'll explore today how creativity works in practice, what sparks her, and how we can actually translate creativity into a business. So we will actually start with what I really like very much, and this is called the impossible challenge or the impossible task. And basically, why is this so important? Because the impossible actually pushes your brain out of routine thinking. The impossible challenge is something that, forces you to think outside of the box and to go beyond, your safe zone and beyond safe answers and to explore the possibilities that you would probably usually ignore. So we are like, you're not supposed to give the right answer. You're just supposed to let your imagination flow and give us some, interesting answers. So here I have 10 impossible challenges, and you can choose whichever you like. And then I will ask you, so few of you, I will give you 5 minutes for this exercise. And after 5 minutes, I will ask a few of you to perhaps give us, your ideas on the particular task challenge that you chosen. And the others might also scan a QR code, which is on the next slide, and provide, in writing, you can use this QR code to give you ideas. You can scan it immediately. Can you scan the QR code? Do you all have your phones with you? It would be nice.
I'm on my phone at the moment.
Oh, you're on your phone. So perhaps for some people, it might be good if I give you the link directly, right? In
That would
chat.
be
That
pretty
would be
good.
helpful.
Okay, I'm sending the link as well. But in the meantime, I will get you through the, 10 impossible challenges that I wanted you to start thinking of as of this moment. So one challenge would be to design a museum with no objects. What you put inside, what you do, how you attract people. The second one would be to create a cultural festival where people cannot speak. How you transmit culture if people cannot speak. And it should be cultural festival. And then to reinvent a traditional ritual for a society 100 years in the future. And then to transform a ghost town into a global cultural hotspot to create a tourism experience for a place the visitor cannot access physically. Or to turn an abandoned underground bunker into a cultural business. So how you attract people to come and visit the bunker. Or to design a business for a community where traditional jobs no longer exist. So imagine a community, no traditional jobs, you need to design a business that would work in that community. Or to invent a product for a place where you don't have electricity. So what can you sell to people that do not have electricity? Or to create a business model where customers set the price after the experience. So they're only paying after the experience. What could you do? Or to invent a souvenir that is not an object. What can that be? So I will now try to share in chat the link.
Would written answers be preferred? So, would you rather that after like 5 minutes we give our answer verbally, or do you specifically need it to be written down?
Okay, I prefer that at least few of you who are sort of interested give me a sort of a verbal answer. I would
I could give a
appreciate
verbal
it,
answer
please.
if possible, a
I
bit
would
later.
really appreciate that. So
Okay,
that works
I'd
great.
like that.
Yeah, and for those who prefer, I will provide a link in a second. So I'm not sure that just to check if the QR code is working. And then I will send you, yeah, the link. So we already have, so now it's 12:20. So you have until 12:25 to think of
Okay.
this
You
problem.
can just tell me when and I'll be I'll be ready to
Thank
respond.
you. Perfect.
Sorry, we should choose only one, right?
Yes, you should choose one. So if some of you are ready, perhaps Rostislav, we can hear from you briefly.
Yeah, exactly. I'll try to keep it brief, especially since these sort of ideas don't usually have much detail in a span of 5 minutes. But um, I just wanted to quickly say that the option of the ghost town and transforming it into a tourist spot kind of reminds me of the fact that tourist traps, quote unquote, are quite common and as old as time basically. And what you need for a good tourist trap is for example we can take any kind of location, any kind of spot, and perhaps create a sort of legend around it, or maybe base it on some sort of like a folk tale, or maybe just like come up with some sort of theming for the area and something that makes it unique uh, in a way that attracts tourism, and so that way we can take any kind of location, any kind of like let's say that we have a usual tourist spot, so like a small hotel, like a tiny cafe area somewhere, and we base it in the woods, and we say, "Oh, there's Bigfoot out in the woods, and we're gonna capture him, and we're gonna take pictures of him." I don't know. I'm just saying that it's like very common, but very you know it works. It's basic, but it works because you can even like create some sort of souvenirs around uh, the theming of your idea, and that way uh, it can spread, I guess, and that's how you attract more people to your spot. So,
That's
so yeah,
Yeah, that's a very, I mean, interesting take on it. I always like to say, um, how it starts, how it all starts. It all starts from this impossible challenge, Um, at some point, Disney World Company asked, what if, we could do not only a themed park, so we have theme parks and roller
yeah,
coasters everywhere, but what if we also add a story to it? So if we put
yes,
inside, Mickey Mouse and all the Disney characters, and we make it a
yeah,
theme park, or with the escape games.
yes.
How we invented escape games? It's usually in the
It's a
apartment.
room. It's a
It's a room.
maze. Yes.
Yeah, it's just a room. It's a maze. So probably someone asked, what if we needed to create a puzzle or a tourist space from an ordinary,
Room.
room flat, and then
Yeah.
we do escape room. So this is definitely a good point. Many things that we find extraordinary and that we enjoy today are actually born out of, a very simple idea that was just given a certain twist, that just someone, asked
Yes.
the right question. Do we have someone else that has sort of an idea for one of these 10? I see some really interesting answers on Menti as well. But I was interested if someone else wanted to tell us in person. So we have 28 answers already. This is really interesting. Do we have someone else who might add something, who has?
I was thinking that the Create Cultural Festival where people cannot speak, I
Mhm.
thought it was not such an impossible challenge in reality, because if we think to the visual arts and dance and music stuff, it's
Yeah.
quite it's something quite common. And also it's also common to think that people can communicate through apps, because it's something that we experienced in
Mhm.
every Almost in
Definitely.
every big company convention, there are chat for chatting with other guests, with other clients or
Definitely.
partners, and so on. So I think it's just a matter of transferring this into a different environment. So maybe taking parts of things that has already been implemented and just put them together.
Definitely. Do we have any other ideas? And in the meantime, I will perhaps try to open the Menti and show you how it looks like. Do we have someone else that sort of reflected on these topics that we just gave?
May I add something to the
Yes,
topic number 4?
yes, please go ahead.
Yes. So as soon as I've read this topic number 4, talking about the ghost towns, my mind directly went to the Italian example, what the Italian government did in Sicily since 2020, I think during the COVID. So I don't think if my teammates know this, but there are a lot of abandoned towns in the southern part of Italy, in Sicilia specifically, and the Italian government didn't find anything to do with them, since their habitants went away, or either abroad in some countries such as the United States, or they just moved up to Napoli to work, and they never came back. So the Italian government started to basically offer those houses for €1,
Yeah.
and and they did a big successful propaganda behind it, portraying Sicily as this magnificent piece of land, relating it to such wonderful movies.
Yep. This is really interesting. Yep. No, this is really interesting way of sort of repurposing and renewing and sort of urban redevelopment and incentivizing people to engage and sort of, bring life back into the ghost town. I will just briefly, walk you through what we also have as sort of, some of the ideas. Non-object souvenir memory you take with you, but yeah, how do you sell memory or how do you sell experience? Because we said you need to sell it, so you need to sort of have, and there was, tradition to make a phone call, for example, the day the phone was not invented, or mimic the place. There's so many interesting ideas here. Restore bunker into a rental space. Okay, that's interesting. But bunkers are used actually today as sort of, there are several sort of options in which they're repurposed for sort of as sort of creative industry. So one is tourism, of course. So around Europe, you can visit a lot of sort of former nuclear bunkers and sort of do some tourism and sightseeing in there. In Albania, for example, in Tirana, they turned one into a museum. There are some, because there are like over 170,000 bunkers in Albania, and they turned some into tattoo parlors, some into some underground coffee shops, and their bunkers are used today, for example, in UK as sort of data storage spaces. So there are a lot of really possibilities for us to think outside of the box and to sort of and yeah, business model where customers set the price after the experience. I don't know if any of you had the free walking tour. That's pretty much the example of it. Free walking tours are the tours that you join for free, and you walk with the guide. You book online. You walk with a lot of other people who also book this tour. and then you basically just pay as you want. That's the sort of the pricing mechanism called pay as you want, where at the end you're just invited to tip the guide. So it's basically only after the experience that you pay the experience. So I'm going back to the presentation because now it's time to start with some sort of serious stuff. But before that, another short Menti, because I would like to hear your thoughts on creativity. So whoever has access and can scan the QR code, please go with that. I forgot that we are sort of in a digital environment and a lot of you will be connected from the phones. But if someone can also put the link in chat, that would be great. So what is creativity? Creativity is, in a way, the ability to combine ideas in new and meaningful ways. So we're living in a world where everything seems to be already, well known, everything discovered, everything, sort of out there, easy to grasp. But there are always so many ways to invent new things and to come to new things. So this is what this combination of ideas sort of gives us. And basically, in academic terms, we define creativity as sort of a novelty and relevance together. So the idea is creative. We said that something is creative if it's new and if it's useful. So it needs to have the novelty and it needs to have also this sort of the useful part that is actually valuable for someone and for something. So think about, for example, what we have all around Europe now, where we have all industrial abandoned complex, factories that are no longer, used because of the environmental concerns or because, just not the industry is not is no longer sort of uh, used. And these factories have been turned all around Europe into creative hubs, places where you have, local artists, markets, coffee shops and restaurants, different sorts of stores, boutiques, and so on. Or, the ways in which we approach cultural heritage interpretation today. That's also very creative because we use AR, we use VR, we use sort of a lot of different digital tools to sort of bring history into life and sort of give it. So here I have all these QR codes. This is a way to engage you, to make you, you're using your phones pretty much all the time. But, this is the way to approach you because most of the times you consume content through your mobile phones. So this is what we do in the museum now, right? We sort of give you the different QR codes that you can scan. We give you different interactive possibilities that you can sort of use. So
Could I receive the link in chat if you need a written answer, or maybe I could
this
give
was,
a very, very quick, a very brief opinion,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah.
I definitely agree with everything that you say because you give it from a sort of professional perspective that is useful for someone who has an entrepreneurial mindset, sort of, right? We need to invent something that is specifically unique and creative. I just personally believe that creativity as an idea, as a concept, is innate to human beings. Like
Yes.
generally, creativity is innate, and the only difference between individual creativity and like more generalized, groundbreaking kind of creativity is that we have probably all had that experience where we have a sort of idea and we have this eureka moment. Oh my God, I came up with this amazing idea, and then you Google it, and it's been created for like the past 10 years. It's already existed. They already did that. But that doesn't mean that you aren't creative because your own mind your own thinking patterns came together to kind of like recreate a similar concept anyway. So I feel like creativity is something that everyone should always try to participate in, no matter if it ends up being like something that already exists, you still express your own ideas and your own kind of creative ventures. So it's always a good idea to express yourself, no matter what. And I believe that. So yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's precisely something, a point that I wanted to make. So two things that you said that are really relevant. So creativity is not something that, that it cannot be learned. So creativity is a skill. It's not a talent. It's not that someone is more creative than another person. It is
exactly, I
just
agree with that.
that he trains his brain more to think outside of the box and to sort of there, it's about playfulness.
Yeah.
It's about the capacity to play, to be inspired, to see something and to think, oh, can you imagine? Wouldn't this be easier if we would do it this or that way? Or how about, it's driven by questioning the obvious. And then we come to the core thing that you were just talking about, why creativity matters today, why it is so important. Because as you know, we live in a world where, most of our routine tasks are automated, you know
Yeah.
um, we have coffee machines that automatically make our coffee. We just press the button. They combine all the ingredients in a perfect way. We have, our chatbots write our emails for us. We just
Yeah.
prompt them. We have, machines plan our routes. So, I want to travel to Montenegro for a week, suggest an itinerary, and then here it is, your favorite chatbot already gives you a full travel itinerary and the suggestions, and they can book your tickets, and they can like do all sorts of things that, you would usually do. And they can manage your schedule, they can write the text for you. So, and they do it faster most of the time, much faster than we would do it, right, manually. And they,
Yeah.
unfortunately, most of the time also do it better than we do, right? When you're writing your grocery list, it is highly probable that you will forget 5 or 10 things
Something, yeah.
from the list, but not your chatbot. So it is really, or when you're planning a trip, when you're thinking of all the heritage sites that you would like to visit, you will certainly not be able to, to remember all. But AI will do it usually better than you, which means that there are only very few things that human can still do better than AI, and creativity is one of those. So studies
Yes.
consistently showed that machines still, and it is question if this is something that will change over time, but at this point, the human creativity is the thing that AI still cannot match. It is still not trained or able to make this, connections that we make it. And AI analyzes patterns, but cannot imagine a future that does not exist yet. And this is what we do, right? Or AI cannot feel the culture or understand humor or context or emotions. And all these things are necessary for, creativity.
Yes. I will say one final thing and then I'll go silent for a bit so that I don't interrupt anybody or, I just wanted to say that let's theoretically imagine a nearby future where an AI is capable of doing that. Just theoretically. I would say that even though a lot of people would say that it devalues art and mass produces art, that is true. But also, I believe that it would be a sort of renaissance in a way where people start to appreciate their own creativity, not because like uh, human art is inherently beautiful and cool and inspiring because a person made it. And if you compare yourself to the fact that uh, I- it takes me to paint a painting like I don't know 2 years, and an AI can do it in half a second. But the thing is that if you value your own creativity, if you value your own vision, it still matters, and your own creativity matters. So I feel like there will never be truly a point where art dies, as people can say. It sort of transforms the understanding of the value of art. So that's my opinion. So
Yeah,
yes.
I I I definitely agree. Um, so I think that basically what matters is that, as you said, AI can generate art, and that's perfectly legitimate. But it means that we really need to cherish creativity as a sort of a key differentiator, and
Exactly.
it helps organizations, to innovate, to communicate authentically, and to create experiences that actually, resonate with people. And it's really what we call the new economies that grow from the ideas today. So I would like now to invite you to have you ever heard about Banksy?
Yes.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. We have
Yes.
Banksy's works even in Kiev.
Yeah. So I think that I would like, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that. Here I had just a short few minutes video.
I wish more women over 60 knew.
Let me
Tai Chi
just
was created for
let me just skip the ad and try to sort of share it with you, because it's a very interesting video, and I think it really shows creative economy in practice. Can you see it? And can you hear it?
Yes, we can see it, but we
The
cannot.
video
There you
is
go.
really
Now we can
have
hear
no
it.
choice. Seth Doan has one of our Sunday best, a portrait of one elusive artist.
Most artists have an obsession that defines their work. Monet had light, Hockney has color. I've got police response time. That's Banksy in his own words. Once seen as a vandal, he's now revered for his work. It sells for millions. But the famously anonymous street artist's most ambitious masterpiece may be keeping his identity hidden.
Did you hear directly from Banksy?
No, this is one of, I suppose, the great mysteries. I've never met him. I've never spoken to him.
Putting together last year's Banksy exhibition, and the only one the artist has authorized in 15 years, required extensive planning and a cover story. Gareth James, who manages the Gallery of Modern Art in Glasgow, Scotland, was telling people they'd be refurbishing the windows.
I had to keep it secret from colleagues, family, and friends.
Did you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement?
Yep.
The idea, James says, was for this show to just appear unannounced, like Banksy's work. Cut and Run, 25 years card labor, featured the stencils for many of his best-known images and work from as far back as the late 90s. Banksy recreated his childhood bedroom, where he explains how this scene from the cult movie Jaws inspired him.
Stick vandalism. That is a deliberate mutilation of a public service message.
It showed me everything I needed to know about graffiti, he writes. It should be audacious and funny.
It seems that so much of this exhibition is the captions.
Yeah, you really maybe come away with a feeling of having an insight, or maybe even trying to get to know Banksy a bit, because that voice is there.
Banksy's political voice has always been there in his art. He often champions the underdog, be it migrants or Palestinians in the West Bank, where in the shadow of Israel's separation barrier, he created the walled-off hotel.
This was Banksy's idea.
This is Banksy here.
Yeah, this is Banksy. This is original Banksy.
His art is coveted, but of course, graffiti is not exactly legal.
The anonymity was there from the minute I met him.
It was more about avoiding problems with the police.
It was all about avoiding problems with the police and nothing to do with it being a promotional tool. Quite quickly, it became the best promotional tool anyone could ever invent.
Steve Lazaridis was an early associate of Banksy's in the working-class English town of Bristol.
What kind of guy is he?
Difficult.
In what way?
Just in that way that sometimes people are a genius at what they're doing. There's no taking away from the fact that the guy's is a legend. He was making images and messages that everyone could understand. And I think that's what was the game changer. Like suddenly someone was making art that you didn't feel stupid looking at.
He's sometimes criticized for that too, that it's too simplistic.
Yeah, but he's only criticised by, and I'm going to swear, by in the art world. They've never liked him. They've never liked the movement. It's been at the fore now for almost 30 years, and all of that without any help from the art world.
What's interesting, though, there is now this dance between these two worlds.
But now the art world wants it.
Lazaridis says he has thousands of photos of Banksy working. Some he's published. Though they've parted ways, he has not publicly revealed the artist's identity.
It's a tough world to get into, Banksy's world.
It's not tough. It's impossible.
I deal in very important artworks by major museum artists, from Picasso to Damien Hirst, and there is nowhere near this level of secrecy or gamesmanship almost.
What do you mean by gamesmanship?
It's a bit Wild West.
Akaris Andipa is one of the biggest collectors and dealers of Banksy's work out of his London gallery.
Banksy has managed to create a new set of rules within the art world, which is if it doesn't have a certificate of authenticity, you should not sell it. You should not buy it. And that's astonishing. It also opens a quagmire of problems. What happens if the artist doesn't like an early work?
Or what happens if the artist doesn't like the person seeking the authenticity?
Yeah. Problem, right?
Ooh, the art world is interesting.
Wild West.
It was Banksy's 2004 work Napalm which first piqued Andipa's interest.
The perfect balance of frivolity with serious element. You have a little snigger first, a little laugh, because it's light-hearted, but then you kind of suck your teeth a little. Actually, there's some weight to it.
How much is it Banksy's message? How much is it his pure skill as an artist?
He is actually quite painterly, but he's chosen to execute his work through stencils, much like Andy Warhol did through screen prints.
But there's no precedent in the art world for this.
Sell it now and sell it for 860,000.
Shredding a piece seconds after it was sold at auction for $1.4 million. An irreverent middle finger to the establishment is a theme of his work, but the stunt actually added value. The shredded painting resold a few years later for $25 million. Yet the artist's identity remains unconfirmed.
Am I going to reveal it? Probably not.
And those who do know it are bound or choose not to expose him.
There are institutions, including UK papers, that would pay a lot of money for him to be unmasked. Not one person has stepped up to take the bounty.
How can that be?
At the risk of overly romanticizing, one has to assume that he's a good person. He knows how to look after the people around him.
Would something change if we knew his identity?
I'm not sure, and I really hope we never find out.
Okay, so I think this was this was really interesting for those of you who haven't been familiar, and even for those of you who have been familiar with the world of Banksy. So Banksy is, as you saw, like an anonymous British street artist that became viral. I think he's probably one of the most influential cultural figures of the 21st century. We don't know his real name, we don't know his face, we don't know, who he is, and his work appears just overnight on the streets, of and it sort of became like an urban legend. People are, people like the stories. Our brains are wired towards, this stories
The
that
unknown.
yeah,
The
the
unknown.
unknown and the stories that we cannot fully grasp, and then let me share back my screen. So this use of art that looks almost simplistic at some point, and then it also sort of really triggers the reflection and sort of makes it a little bit heavy for you to sort of engage with the geopolitical background of his art as something, so brand built on his mystery and brand built on meaning. And interesting, you probably know this, one of his most famous, the girl with the heart-shaped balloon, and this, question whether the girl is just about to catch the balloon or the balloon is actually, flying away from her as sort of, a symbol of hope, or freedom, or loss for someone. So it really can be interpreted in so many interesting ways. And this is really where the power of this cultural initiative comes from, from this very witty, very intelligent combination of arts and activism and humor and public space, because he's bypassing galleries, he's bypassing museums, and he's sort of turning towards street. And as you saw in this video, when his new piece appears on the walls of any city, it becomes tourist attractions. It sort of, it really creates a cultural event, and local communities then, debate whether to preserve it, whether to, paint it over, whether to sell it, whether to protect it behind the glass, and there are so many, interesting initiatives that, the famous Sotheby's stunt that, you just saw when the painting was auctioned, and then it shredded itself live in front of, these collectors that were like, what, we just, we're ready to give 1 million to this, but it's just, the story is bigger than the object, the hype is more important than, the financial moment. So this is really what that shows us how, creative entrepreneurs use innovation, use disruption, use the unexpected, use the emotion to sort of shape and create cultural and economic value. So to finally define creative entrepreneurship, we're almost an hour into a lecture, but at least I hope that it's sort of really sparked your interest, and I prefer showing than just giving the definition. But I really think that it's important that you understand that creative entrepreneurship is really what happens when our imagination takes over, and when we start turning our craziest cultural ideas into the products or services that people will value and that people will be ready to pay for. And what really distinguishes creative entrepreneurships from like all sorts of entrepreneurial ventures is that there is meaning behind. There is this strong cultural value that is behind. It's not only about the profit, it's not really about making a profit. It's about making people feel something. It's about making people think of something, making just like spark triggering emotions, triggering stories, aesthetics, and this might include as different aspects as transforming cultural heritage into experiences where we immerse into, watch Colosseum as it used to be hundreds of years ago, or, when we create digital cultural content, we will talk about a little bit later about the new ways that people use AI to generate revenues through creative entrepreneurship. So we create, for example, journals or, a template. Oh, I'm sorry. It is probably that someone's mic is on, so I guess it would be nice if everyone just muted themselves, but if not, never mind. So yeah, we go to a few examples of creative entrepreneurs. So who is a creative entrepreneur? Who can be a creative entrepreneur? So when you have, for example, a designer who modernizes and uses traditional patterns into contemporary fashion shows, that's sort of what we call cultural entrepreneurship. Or when we have a curator who uses storytelling to make the museum exhibits more engaging. Or when we have the different, for example, people who make digital templates and make crafts and perhaps what I usually shopped on Etsy. I don't know if you're familiar with the platform, but it's basically a platform.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's lots of cool stuff there.
A lot of cool stuff, a lot of creative products that you might buy. So, for example, when I'm throwing a birthday party for my son, one option is to pay a professional designer who will do lots of branded products and put the Superman chocolate bars and Superman bottle wrappers or candy wrappers, or different sort of cool stuff for the birthday parties that kids usually like. Or you can go on Etsy and download the ready to make templates, and then just cut them and wrap them around your candies. Or you can go on Canva and design your own, which is in even more, and this is how people actually make money on Etsy. They go on Canva or some other designer tools and then design digital product, and they offer you the possibility to personalize it through Etsy. So here are quite a few of the examples that I wanted to talk about. Not really sure that I can make it and that we have a lot of time. So perhaps just go ahead, and then if we have some time, we go back to this list and then we start discussing, because there are so many things that I would like to talk to you through. But now let's focus on, how we become creative, how we get the creative mindset. It's really like practicing our creative mindset and how we can create it. This is by really growing the 4 main habits: the curiosity, asking questions and exploring, empathy. We need to sort of be able to understand what people need, what people feel, what people want, what people expect. And then collaboration, we need to allow diverse perspectives to shape stronger outcomes. And the experimentation, we need to be able to test ideas, to adjust these ideas, to learn. And these habits actually make us move beyond the traditional expectations and traditional predictable solutions, and allow to design something that feels fresh for the people, that feels relevant, and that feels human-centered. So just briefly on each of those, curiosity. Why curiosity fuels creativity? So it really begins when you start accepting things from as they are, to wondering if they could be different. And I think kids are the most amazing example of, in their world, nothing is given. You know, they ask about 300 questions a day. You know, every parent can tell you how, you know, tiring that is. But we only ask tens as adults. And kids ask 300. Why? Because for them, you know, it doesn't have to work that way, you know. Why we have to, you know, pour water into a glass? Why we cannot pour it into a plate or in my favorite toy and I can drink it from there, you know? Or, you know, why are we supposed to arrange things in a particular order? Or, you know, so they're really ready to challenge the everyday assumption. And the innovations really begins with curiosity and with questions and with challenging the assumptions. So, you know, I think Airbnb is a wonderful example, you know, and in general, the shared economy, but Airbnb, you know, the breakthrough came when they actually asked, how, you know, instead of how do we rent out rooms, they ask, how do we help travelers feel at home anywhere? Because people were, you know, fed up of going to hotels. They look the same everywhere. They, you know, you're a tourist. When you're in a hotel, you're a tourist. And people want to feel at home when they travel. They want to immerse into life of local population. So the idea was, you know, what if we offer people to actually rent our flat, you know, and actually be able to live in a, you know, typical flat in which a person from Barcelona or Warsaw lives, and you rent it and you live in it. So it's really from the questions that, you know, it starts, and this is how we turn the ordinary places into, you know, creative possibilities. So always remember to ask, you know, what if? Be curious. So the next slide. Empathy. So what is empathy? Empathy is basically our ability to understand how other people, you know, think, feel, how they behave, and it is really essential for our, you know, it's essential for our, you know, social interactions and for our creative work, you know. And why? Because in order to design a creative cultural experience, you know, a meaningful experience, you need to understand what people want, even if they don't tell you necessarily. You need to feel, even if they don't know, because the cultural and creative entrepreneurship is often about creating solutions, not to existing problems, but to the problems that people don't even know they have, you know? So I always like to mention IKEA, for example. You have IKEA. They're selling the furniture just as any other, you know, furniture seller in the world. But what they did, they said, okay, there is something, you know, young people, when they move into a new place, they usually rent small apartments. They don't have that much place. They need compact furniture that is easy to put, minimalistic, and also they don't have that much money, so they probably would like to save if possible. What if we offer them to send them pretty much the woods and the, you know, nails and bots that they need to sort of make the table, the
Construct.
bed.
Yes,
Yeah,
the tape.
the bed on their own. So we save on shipping costs, we save on transportation costs, we save on the cost of, you know, putting it together.
Manufacturing.
Yeah, well, you manufacture, but you save on the cost of, you know,
Ye
yeah,
Assembly.
assembling. That's the word. Thank you so much, Ratislav. So basically, this is how, you know, you create, you feel the need that people have, and then you provide them solution. So it really is about, you know, listening carefully, observing without judging, and seeing the world from, you know, the perspective of someone else. And then, you know, I think that museums do that in a wonderful way when they redesign their exhibition for children. That's really interesting to see, because you know, or when they design them for people with disabilities. So you feel the group that is coming to you, and then you sort of put yourself in their shoes and create a space that they would like and the experience they would enjoy. And designers do this when they test prototypes with real users and adjust sort of them based on the reaction. And the better you understand the audience, the more tailored your approach will be, and the better your cultural experience solution will be. So go to experimentation. And this is, I think, where creativity stops being theoretical and becomes practical. So in the previous phases, you were just sort of letting your creativity wander, being curious, being empathic, so sort of, trying to get the feedback from people. And here you sort of really start prototyping and making things, and sort of and this is what really distinguishes creative entrepreneurs from other people. They don't wait for the idea to be perfect. They don't think they need to sort of work on that idea for 5 years before putting it to the market. No, they try fast, they fail fast, they redesign fast, and then they try with another one also fast. And it's through these reiteration, through this experimentation, through piloting, through these small tests and mock-ups and drafts, that we sort of learn how people react, what people want, what could be done better. Okay, they really don't like this. Dyson made over 5,000 prototypes to get to this vacuum cleaner that, people are using now all around the world. Over 5,000. Can you imagine how many products, how many reiteration, how many customer feedbacks it meant to collect before getting, perfecting the vacuum design, and I think that, Pixar does the same. For example, they rewrite the scenes tens and hundreds of times to make it, before the final production, to have the most impactful one. So this is why you should not be afraid of experimentation. Try it out, fail. That's a good thing. It actually turns your mistakes into a progress, and each trials brings you one step closer to something that will actually work. Okay, collaboration. Skill number 5. No, number 4, sorry. So collaboration is actually the process of multiplying creativity. What we do when we collaborate is we sort of meet different perspectives, different social perspectives, different international backgrounds. Can you imagine? We're now over 150 in this, in this meeting. Can you imagine how amazing ideas would actually pop out, and how amazing suggestions I would get if I tell you now that I have an idea of creating, I don't know, a specialized, I don't know, mini app, or, a digital pet or something like that. And then you could give me all your, different experiences. And this is really what makes cultural and creative entrepreneurships extremely valuable. Different perspectives, artistic, technical, social, cultural, make the ideas richer, make the ideas stronger. And this is what really needs to be sort of done with creative and cultural ventures. So it's really about working with people that have the skills that you perhaps don't have, so museums work with historians, work with tourism professionals, they work with designers, they work with educators, they work with communities, and festivals, right? They work with managers, with artists, with musicians, with planners, with sponsors, with volunteers. They all bring their unique perspectives, and that's how, you make this magical experience. So it's really about expanding the limits of our own imagination by adding the perspective of other people. And now we are sort of past one big chunk of our today's lecture, which was on, creativity and cultural and creative entrepreneurships. And the thing that I really want to encourage you now to walk with me through, if you're not too tired, and I hope I still have your attention, at least for a few minutes, is about, design thinking. So what is design thinking? You probably heard of it, and yet, it is probably not as widely used as it should be. So design thinking is actually a practical framework. I would just make a quick check of, yeah, my battery level. That's fine. So design thinking is this, practical framework for solving problems, and begins really with understanding people. It's a human-centric innovation method. It means that it really starts by understanding people's needs, people's fears, people's motivation, people's frustration, and it ends with testing real solutions. And it is very flexible. It is iterative. It is what we call human-centered, right? And it is very much used by startups that show the highest levels of innovative cultures, by museums, by innovative cities, and even governments, think of how Airbnb redesigned hospitality, how IKEA redesigned furniture business, how museums now created digital visitor-friendly experiences, and so on. So it really helps us transform these complex challenges into clear possibilities. And similarly to what we just saw in the process of sparking your creative spirit, the first step is always empathy. Empathize, observe real behavior. Try to look beyond what people tell you. Try to engage with people directly. Try to understand the context they live in. Try to watch how they move. What museums do now is actually amazing, because they put sensors, motion sensors, into different rooms, and then they track how much time you spend in front of a particular object, and then that gives them a hint about how they can sort of redesign their exhibition. And this is what National Museum of Denmark, for example, did when they redesigned their exhibition for children. They watched how children and young sort of people moved through the museum, how they touched, how they reacted with objects, and that's what they used to sort of change the exhibition layout. So empathy is what will help you reveal the real problem, and not just the problem that we think it is there, but the one that we perhaps even don't know yet about. So after you've sort of empathized and sort of felt the pulse of people and of the community for whom you want to resolve a certain problem, then you go into defining. And how you define? You sort of need to make a clear problem statement, and it's sort of your compass in a way. It tells you where to focus your creative energy. So, it's not, tourists are not coming to this village. It's more about, visitors they want more meaningful contact with local culture and not the generic attraction. So, or it's not, young people don't like museums. It's, young people need more sensory interaction. They need more digital experience in the museum. They need to have it more dynamic. So sharpen your problem, state it, but from the user perspective, not from ours perspective, It's not that visitors are not coming. It's that visitors do not, are not really stimulated by,
It's not about the fact that people aren't coming. It's like why, how we can fix.
it is your why. The defining is about finding your why, putting yourself into the shoes of your customer and saying, okay, the customers would like this and that. And then it becomes clear. And then what should be done. Perhaps you still don't know how to do it, but at least you know what should be done. And in your third step, which is called ideation, you do precisely that. You sort of produce a large number of ideas. So design thinking is all about producing a lot of different ideas that are silly, that are funny, that are often, not applicable, that are, just, wild or simple or strange or whatever ideas. Just, have ideas in there. And this is your, how. This is your, so empathy is your what. That's, what is the problem? And then the define is your why. Why there is a problem, who has this problem. And then ideation is your how, how many different ways I have to resolve this issue. And I like, for example, you probably saw the Google culture. Like, I think it was like 10 years ago, I've visited Google in Ireland, so their headquarters for Europe. And I remember I was impressed by the culture that I saw there, people working from their laptop in the massage room or in, like small capsule spaces, and putting their post-it stickers everywhere, and like getting into the brainstorming room with just some random people, and getting to lunch break and sitting next to, people they never saw before, just to make this sort of really idea sprints and to generate innovation. And this is really what make I think this company such a giant, that they really change the culture of doing business. And basically this is where your ideation should come in. You should generate a lot of ideas. It's your playground of your creativity, and just quantity leads to quality. Just use that and brainstorm without the judgment. And then in the step 4, you should prototype. You should create, simple, quick models. You should make your ideas tangible, and you can use them. You can sketch them. You can use storyboards. You can use, there are a lot of digital tools that you can use for that as well. I'm not sure if you're familiar with most of them, but there are like many, many digital tools that are really nice for such sort of prototyping. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being clear, and having your prototype and your idea how sketched in a way, written in a way that people can understand it, that your message is clear, that people can respond to that. And this is what everyone do. Museums prototype their exhibition. They don't just put it directly in there. They prototype it. They sort of design how it will look like in online. And designers, they prototype apps. They don't just put it out there. And when you make your house, your architect will sort of prototype your house, right, in 3D, in different using different digital tools. And your tour guide will also prototype his tour before he goes out and does the tour. He will think of the specific places, storytelling, walking path where you will go with him. So prototype is actually what reduces risks and accelerates your learning. And then step 5 is testing. You're testing your prototype, and you're putting your prototype in front of real users. And you're saying them, okay, this is how I want to do it. Tell me how would you like it? And you just don't ask them, but you also observe how they react. You listen to their feedback, but you also observe what they hear and feel. And perhaps they won't understand the story at all, or maybe they will walk the wrong direction in the museum exhibition, or maybe they will find it a little bit confusing the way you organize this. And this will reveal what works and what doesn't work in your prototype. And I think you can always think of Netflix, for example. You all watch Netflix, and they use this test thumbnails and these previews that you actually automatically have after you watched certain show or episode. And this is what they use to sort of see how long you will stay on a certain pilot, on a certain trailer, to see, what attracts viewers and whether, it is worth buying this type of content. Or, the testing in itself is like, it's not the end of the process. It is, as I told you, just sort of the first, a failure towards the success. It sort of really loops back into improvement, and creativity is really something that will evolve through iteration. So one case study that I wanted to share, and then I would also like to sort of give you some space to reflect on what we were discussing today. So Airbnb. So at the beginning, the Airbnb really struggled to find its, a market. The platform wasn't growing, and the hosts were there, but they weren't getting a lot of booking. And then they realized the problem was not, that the idea was bad, but it's the way the experience looked and felt. So what they did is so the founders actually went to visit the hosts themselves, so in person, and they photographed the apartments, and they listened to the complaints, and they observed what guests told them and how guests behaved. And this is what actually showed them this sort of empathy, showed them the ways to transform platform. Okay, we need better pictures. We need pictures that, speak to the consumers. And we need, hosts to be more responsive when, the customer launches an email and a request to book their a home. And really, it's all about cultural exchange now, because they really understood, the power of human-centric design. So I would like now, because there's so many things that we would like to sort of discuss, but here is sort of a short empathy mapping exercise where I would really like us to move from, the abstract audiences and like consumers as a very general category to real people with real needs, and sort of to try to give us deeper understanding of, people's motivation and what they like or dislike. So to create a sort of an empathy map. So for example, you can imagine designing a museum exhibit for teenagers. And the empathy map is what you will use to sort of see how much of interactive experiences they want. Do they want also a social space, like a coffee shop where they could, have coffees and socialize, meet other people? Would they like, Instagram friendly places and at the museum? Would they like the content that will be, easily shared online? And so on. So the empathy map is really about defining your user. So who is your user? Targeting precisely. How old? What sort of cultural background? Perhaps what nationality? Male or female? Age range? Educational background, social background, all sorts of things that you might think of. And what they actually want to see, what they want to hear, what are the main points, what they want to feel. What teenagers want from an exhibition is definitely different from, what a group of elderly people would like to see, or, tourists from some remote destination like, New Zealand. So it's really about, using these empathy maps to design the meaningful experiences. And, you can have a minute or two to think of these few very important aspects. And I will, in the meantime, so sort of try to walk you through some really, I think, interesting examples of creative industries and the ways in which they sort of created these ventures. So creative industries are really what is transforming, what is driving the cultural and economic transformation nowadays. And it's, do you know some of the creative industries to sort of tell me, to name? What are creative industries? What they include? Streaming platforms, right?
Well, there are many ways to create a creative experience, both physical and digital, something more interactive, something more like just generally um, some sort of like uh, basically creating experiences and creating uh, something that resonates with a given demographic of people in the most generalized term. So just kind of something that came to mind. Um, yes. Um, well, maybe someone else can
Okay.
give
So
a
I
more.
will give you a few hints, right? We spoke of Netflix, right? Streaming platforms,
Yes,
creative
of
industry.
course.
Gaming, creative industry.
Yes.
Digital content creation, Etsy, creative industry.
Yes.
Music, Spotify, fashion, architecture, movie, film, cultural tourism, there are, cities like Berlin or Seoul that have really reinvented themselves through creative scene. Or, the Van Gogh exhibitions. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Van Gogh immersive exhibitions, where you actually have Van Gogh paintings sort of, streamed on the large, it's not even screens, but like projected on the walls of the buildings and sort of made it very, very immersive. Or, creative industries are really something that is emerging all around the world and making places interesting and creating jobs and attracting tourists and strengthening, cultural diplomacy and really activating the local power. So I wanted to also sort of mention the Van Gogh immersive experiences as a very, format that attracts people that perhaps cannot or won't have a chance to go and visit the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, right? So it's basically a very successful exhibition that shows how heritage can be reimagined through technology, and it really proves that classical art can become contemporary and interactive without, losing the authenticity. And an excellent example of creative entrepreneurship is like the urban creative hubs, these old factories that we mentioned that are turned into innovation spaces and that mix arts and tech and community and regeneration of neighborhoods and creative economy sort of in action. Or in terms of heritage, and I really like, there's different ways in which we use heritage innovation today. We saw street art as heritage. We saw festivals as heritage. We see different sort of heritage places that are becoming, like a Chernobyl, for example, that became a global tourism destination, not only because of the, disaster, but because there was a lot of creative storytelling involved. And at a certain point, there was even this stalkerism, right? That people were paying a lot to illegally enter the the Chernobyl zone. So not that I'm saying that this is the most appropriate way, but it really shows how creativity can actually take people from
It can fascinate people, I suppose.
very much. And the industrial cities all over Germany that became sort of really cultural landscape. And then, street arts, the murals that are really attracting people and the, inviting artists to cover the walls. And I remember also quite a few years ago, there was this huge project in Berlin called The House, where basically there was a building that was about to be destroyed in a few months in Berlin's Kudamm, and the owner of the building, who was by chance one of the friends with some local street artists from Berlin, actually told them, okay, if you want, you can bring your friends and I will give you an entire building and you do whatever you want. You do your installations, you do painting, you repaint the walls, and you do whatever you want. And you can have it for a few months just for yourself and your exhibitions. And then for 2 months, 120 artists from all around the world worked in the building, redesigned every single room in the building, repainted. And then the building was open for sort of as an exhibition for 2 or 3 months, I remember. And then it was just, it was bulldozed by the machines, and another one was built there. But, also showing this ephemeral character of cultural entrepreneurship, and, where artists become entrepreneurs. Okay, so I think that we are already perhaps, and I would hate to sort of lose you. So I would perhaps just like to ask you to think of these three things, and I would not use Mentimeter. I would rather ask you to, respond in person. So which cultural experience inspired you the most? What stops you from creating and from engaging in, an impossible idea? And how frequently do you engage with creative culture? So you can respond to all these questions or choose with just one or two, whatever you feel, is more relevant. So just let me know. So who would like to start?
I can start.
Okay, thank you, Eldar.
No, my pleasure. So, in terms of which cultural experience or, well, creative cultural experience inspired me the most was digital content creation in the sense of streaming. As I used to, when I was younger, I used to play games competitively and earn money. So I also took up streaming said games in that time. What stopped me from creating is, well, there's not really a lot of perspective in Bosnia here when it comes to making a career out of it, and plus technical limitations also play a key role. And how frequently I engage with said creative culture, pretty much daily, as it's still one of my hobbies. Although I do honestly take part in it a little bit less than I used to. Nowadays, if I do it, it's just more of a hobby than it is some kind of a business venture.
That's a good point. Do we have some more thoughts, and do we have people also that perhaps have a different take on how and why we're sort of, or perhaps the constraints that keep us from exercising our creativity more often? Is it sort of also perhaps, I would say, our system, our sort of perhaps contemporary, I would say, social order that also in a way is not perhaps necessarily favorable towards new ideas when thinking outside of the boxes? Or is it because we think that it is only things that that can be done with like a lot of money? There is an excellent example called the €5 challenge, when students were said that they are given €5 to invent a creative venture, to make a product or service with €5 and to sell it. And there are students that make several €100. But how? They didn't focus on €5 at all. They just forgot about the money. And they focused on creating a service instead, They said, okay, we will offer people when they come into the, I don't know, like the old town, we will offer them to show them the way to accompany them to the nearest, I don't know, souvenir shop or to the nearest toilet in exchange for, €2. And then they start making money without, even using these €5 that were given. So it's about, thinking that creativity actually matters more than, you know,
Monetary
that,
incentive.
yes, than monetary incentives. Exactly.
If I may, I would like just to share with you some thoughts I was thinking about now regarding the creativity. So I don't think that creativity is just a matter of disruptive ideas, because creativity, we can look for and discover creativity even in the day-by-day work. For instance, supporting clients in using a tool means sometimes thinking in a different way to use a tool that they have, just not maybe in the properly way it was projected, but for solving problems. So sometimes problem solving is really a very creative process, even if it's in the little things, in the day-by-day things, but thinking out of the box in doing so, I think it's also creativity.
Yeah, I very much agree. So creativity is just even small things, when you decide to do something that you do every single day, but just to do it differently, that's
Exactly.
yeah, that's also
Or
creativity.
solving an issue by using the same tool, but in a totally different way and a disruptive way in some way, for different purposes. It was not projected for this, why not? But if it's work, why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, definitely. Any other thoughts?
I've talked a lot today, but I would like to cap this off just by saying that I completely agree. And like restrictions, as it's known, that restrictions often birth creativity, and just once again working outside of the box, kind of just utilizing your own skills, your own understanding of how you can use certain things and how you can elaborate on them in your own way is also great. We all engage with creative content in one way or another, but I feel like if I may answer like one of these answers from the list, is that most people kind of have this sort of belief that once again that creativity or like their ideas aren't maybe aren't as valuable or aren't as realistic to execute, so they kind of restrict themselves from even attempting to approach their own creative ventures. But I feel like it's a point that we should try and overcome and still value our own vision and ideas. Just giving them a shot is always good. Yeah, so that's my 5 cents on that. So yes, thank you.
No, thank you so much. I mean, it was a pleasure discussing these topics with you. I think these are really meaningful, and I hope that it was, at least for some of you, interesting and inspiring. And just if there is one thing to take away from today's lecture, it's just keep your eyes and your mind open, and then everything is possible. And start small, fail miserably, and then rise up and do it again, and at a certain point it will work. So thank you very, very much. It was great talking to you, and if there are any questions or comments that you still want to raise, please feel free. And if not, be reminded that you are now supposed to do your small Instagram, right, challenge for sort of showing that there was actually some important or at least interesting or inspiring. I'm happy with whatever you you choose, but that there was something worth taking out of today's lecture, and I hope there was. So thanks a million. And I really wish you best luck And I hope to, have the opportunity to see lots of your creative and inspiring ideas in the future as well. Thank you very much, and have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Yes,
you,
thank
Joanna.
you.
you.
Goodbye.
You
Thank
too.
you about the lecture.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I just do have
Bye
one
bye.
quick question.
Yes, Eldar. Yes, please.
Thank you.
In terms of our quest that we need to do for Instagram, I just wanted to ask, in what sense are we supposed to tie the lecture with our project? Like, what are we supposed to focus on?
Okay, so there is, if I understood correctly, it is supposed to be one sort of key takeaway from, this lecture. So it can be a quote, it can be sort of an inspiring idea, it can be the idea for your own project, cultural and creative project. It can be, something interesting that you learned today. It can be a drawing, it can be a picture, it can be sort of a quote. So, feel free, be creative, and then that's it. So there are no more, constraints than that.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for the lecture. It's
Thank
been
you so
very
much.
entertaining.
Thank
I
you.
guess
I'm
I
happy
will
to.
ask one last thing. I just, the way that I came here is that I received like a basically I assumed it was a last slide that had the link, and it said that our meeting is today at this time. When is our next meeting? Will it be a different person?
Yeah, so in the next lecture, I think you will need to check with your teacher.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
And
I
then
just
they will
wanted to
let
make
you
sure.
know. Yeah. So today was with me, and next week probably someone from the other university. But
Okay, thank you. It was
bye
awesome
bye.
meeting you.
Good
Thank
luck,
you
everyone. Nice
for
meeting you. Bye. Bye.